Namaskar and welcome to the Carbohydrates Part-2. The focus in this session shall be on food processing and nutritional aspects. The objective is to orient ourselves on food processing and nutritional and clinical importance of carbohydrates. If you recall, in the first part, we focused on the structure and properties. In structure, we covered what is carbohydrates, its definition, that is the organic compounds made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, their importance in the diet, that is their primary source of energy, essential for various body functions, and then we also saw the classification, that is simple sugars, that is monosaccharide, disaccharides, oligosaccharides, mean having 3 to 9 monosaccharide units, and polysaccharides were there. And then we also covered the properties like sweetness, water absorption, mutarotation, crystallization, inversion, and the non-enzymatic browning covering caramelization and Maillard-ration. So this we covered in the part 1. So with this, so that we are at the same in the harmony with the what we are covering in this session. The first part is what is the effect of food processing on the carbohydrates. Like what we saw in the carbohydrate structure, we can say basically they are sugar, starch and non-starch polysaccharides. And if you see the food processing operations, they are physically milling operation is there, chemically includes fermentation, caramelization, hydrolysis, acidification. And the most commonly used are under thermal group. We use blanching, pasteurization, cooking, chilling, freezing, baking and aeration. These are the operations are there. Now, how do they impact the different components of the carbohydrates? So, if we take first one, soluble carbohydrates, they dissolve in water during cooking and this affects the sweetness and texture also. Now, the polysaccharides, they hydrolyze and into simple sugars and this also alters their digestibility and functionality. Let us say if we take the carbohydrates, there is a loss through leaching, that is like we do the washing, blanching. So, around 25 to 30% of low molecular carbohydrates, that is mono and disaccharides, are lost is there. The leaching has no effect on the dietary fiber or non-soluble polysaccharides into the processing is there. But if you see the milling and the heat treatment, they change the physical structure and properties are there, which we will study in the detail. The recent trend is the production of resistant oligosaccharides by enzyme process like fructooligosaccharides, sucrose, galactose oligosaccharides from lactose, and they are used in the functional foods. So, a lot of interest is there in production of the oligosaccharides is there. First, we will take the effect on starch. The major role is on gelatinization process. Now, first thing comes, what is gelatinization? It is the absorption of water by starch granules upon heating. So, what it does is, it causes them to swell and forms a viscous solution or gel is there. During the process, the crystalline structure is disrupted and the gel which is formed or the viscosity which is increases, it enhances the texture and digestibility and it is used for the products like sauces and in the baked products is there. As you remember, the starch consists of amylopectin and amylose. So, amylopectin forms the gel and the amylose component comes into the solution is there. Even the partial gelatinization is good for the rapid digestion is there. In steaming process, gelatinization is small in quantity is there. Now, the process, how it takes place exactly is at about 60 degrees centigrade, the starch granules begin to swell and absorb the liquid. So, when the temperature is at 85 degrees centigrade, they will have absorbed around large amount of water, about 5 times than the original volume is there. And then they collide with each other, eventually bursting and releasing the starch from the granules into the liquid. At 96 degrees centigrade, gelatinization is complete. So, as the mixture cools, it thickens even more and setting and forming is there, and it turns gel into at about 38 degrees centigrade. So, this is in short about the gelatinization. You must have seen also at home when you are taking any starch based product and you heat it, so it forms a gel is there. Now, this is to show you this how the gel is formed. So, you can see the starch granules is there. It is containing the linear is amylose and branch chain is amylopectin, that is the red color, and the blue color is the amylose is there. So, when the heating at 60, 85 and then it ultimately forms the starch gel is there. There is another process which is known as retrogradation is there. So, it is a process of reassociation of the starch granules on cooling of the gelatinized starch or the starch base. So, when they reassociate and they lead to formation of the crystalline regions, and it has been observed that the amylose molecules reassociate faster than the amylopectins. So, this process increase the firmnesses, reduce the digestibility and impact the texture of foods like bread and rice. The common example which is like the staling in the bread is because of the retrogradation process is there. And in this process, the water is expelled from the polymer network. The next diagram will show you clear. This is how the synthesis of water take place and the water is oozed out and the structure becomes very ugly when this happens is there. Now, if you see the effect on starch during the processing, first is like milling is there. So, milling, as we know, it reduces the sizes, increase the surface area and solubility. So, this means now the starch is more accessible for enzymatic action during fermentation and baking is there. Heating leads to gelatinization, which we saw also, and it will increase the digestibility. Cooling or freezing, it normally tends to accelerate the retrogradation is there, and the example is of the bread looks stale or it becomes stale is there. And when this cooling or freezing is there, there is a formation of more crystalline structure in the starches is there, and the syneresis can also take place and it has a negative impact on texture is there. Now, the next important component is, as we know, is the dietary fiber is there. So, when we do the milling, it removes the fiber rich outer layer of the grain and diminishes the total fiber content. Now, here also there is a reduction in the particle size, it will increase their surface area and potentially altering their water holding capacity and fermentability in the gut is there. Simultaneously, there is a loss of integrity and potentially reducing its effectiveness in providing bulk and aiding in digestion. So, this is the negative effect of the implant. That is why we avoid the refined flour. Heating is when we heat it enhances the water holding capacity, gel forming ability and viscosity of certain fibers, improve their functional properties in certain foods also. The next we will see that what is the effect of carbohydrates in foods. We have structured into three parts. First is the use of sugars, then food application of starch polysaccharides, and then the food application of non-starch polysaccharides. So, we will take one by one. Sugar, as we know, it gives the sweetness. We all know about the sugar. The important point is it gives clean and sweet taste, that it gives you sweet without changing the flavor of the original product like tea, coffee, juice. And this sweetness, it is because of the hydrogen bond between sugar and water molecules, and it gives you. But you never, this sugar will never change the flavor of the original tea or coffee what we do. And it has a good synergy with the fat. it complements the richness of fat and enhances the overall experience in the, that's why some of the sweets which are based on the starch base, so they look very good with our sugar is there. Similarly, they also give the mouthfeel and body is there, like particularly mouthfeel and body is required in the beverages, giving them viscosity, giving them fuller and more satisfying texture, which is important particularly like syrups, sports drinks and smoothie. Then texture, next important property is texture. It is like a mouthfeel in ice cream and bakery products is there. Now what it does is when we add the sugar into this, it lowers the freezing point of the ice cream mix. When it lowers the freezing point, it inhibits the formation of large size ice crystals and lactose crystal, and we get the very good, the ice cream which is smooth and which is scoopable also. In the bakery products, it gives the optimal dough elasticity. It acts as a tenderizer and maintains the elasticity of gluten because it competes with the gluten for water and delaying the gluten hydration and making the dough more pliable and easy to handle is there. During baking, it gives the flavor also, aroma also and color because sugar goes under Maillard reaction and caramelization are there. In the bakery products itself, the crisp texture is because of the recrystallization takes place because water evaporates from the dough and sugar begins to recrystallize. And this is particularly a type of desired characteristics in the like cookies or pastries having a crisp texture is there. Then tenderizing effect of the bakery products is there because inhibition of starch and protein interaction will take. It will, sugar normally slow the rate of at which starch molecules retrograde and proteins break down. This results in more tender crumb structure in cake and breads, keeping them moist and soft for long products. So these are the certain reasons because of the sweetness and the desired texture like crisp texture and the tenderizing effect in the bakery products. We are using the sugars in the bakery products is there. Then the very important role is the preservation role is there. First is the microbial growth inhibition because sugar creates high osmotic process and it lowers the water activity. With the lowering of the water activity, the shelf life is enhanced or the product is preserved is there. This particularly we can see, you can also see the example of high sugar concentration in jams and jellies. If you see the jam and jelly, because the sugar concentration is high, it binds the water molecules and the water is not available for the microbial activity. So we have the more shelf life is there. Similarly, the next property, moisture retention and shelf life extension. They hold the water molecules due to their hygroscopic properties and they retain the moisture, thus slowing the moisture loss and helps prevention in the drying out of the food products. During this, it also extends the shelf life of the baked products is there. Then fermentation is another important process. As you know, fermentation result, the output is the ethanol is there. It is a process by which the yeast acts on the primarily on the simple sugars like glucose and they produce ethanol. Yeast cell contains an enzyme called zymase which catalyzes the conversion of glucose into ethanol and carbon dioxide through glycolysis pathway as shown below. So, glucose molecule is changed into the ethanol and then we get the carbon dioxide. This process is anaerobic breakdown of glucose into ethanol and carbon dioxide is there. Now, in the examples if you see in the beer making is there, beverage ethanol is there. So, what the barley grains are taken, they are converted, convert the starch into fermentable sugars and these sugars are fermented by yeast and ethanol is produced, carbon dioxide is produced and then we carbonate the beer is that. Similarly, in the wine making, grapes containing the natural sugar, glucose and fructose, So, the example of the fermentation takes place and we get the ethanol is there. In bakery products also, the sugar are added to the dough to feed the yeast is there. The biofuel also, like from the sugar cane, the popular industrial ethanol or biofuel is prepared is there. So, what we need for fermentation is basically some simple sugars, and they are required for activating the yeast, and which through the action of enzyme zymes converts these sugars into ethanol and carbon dioxide is there. And this process is used in the brewing and baking industry as well as in the industrial ethanol. Nowadays, there are a lot of importance has been given on production of industrial ethanol or biofuel. Then the appearance, the sugar, presence of sugar also tries to give good golden brown color and flavor in food products, and this is primarily because of the non-enzymatic browning, in which we studied there are two types of browning. One is caramelization is there, and which the decomposition of sugar take place at high temperature 110 degrees. Now, in Maillard reaction, what we need is we need the amino acid plus reducing sugar. So, browning of bread crust or chemical reaction is take place because of the reducing sugar, that is we can have glucose or lactose, and the amino acids is there. So, this gives us the Maillard reaction. So, in the last in the properties we covered the Maillard reaction in great detail is there. So, the golden brown crisp surface formed as a result of caramelization enhances the flavor and taste and also helps in retaining the moisture is there. Then the other thing is all these sugars. When I say sugar, this means monosaccharides and disaccharides are there. So, they lower the freezing point is there, and particularly like monosaccharides, corn syrup containing a high proportion of low molecular weight, they will depress the freezing point is there. By reducing sugars such as glucose, fructose, maltose, they are recommended for ice cream. As I mentioned, the lowering of the freezing point, it will ensure that the ice cream remains soft and scoopable at low temperature, and there are no ice crystals are formed. In frozen dessert, these sugars give flavor and mouthfeel characteristics are there. The other very important role is they also act as antioxidants, that is they have a property as an scavengers for the metal ions. So, if you see that glucose, fructose and sugar alcohols, they have the ability to block the reactive sites of ions such as copper, iron and to some extent cobalt also. So, because of this, monosaccharides help in by retarding the catalytic oxidation reaction, and there is a food preservation process takes place. And in the Maillard reaction also, some products are produced which have antioxidant properties for food system. That is why these products are also used in the biscuits, in the cookies and the sausage making is there. So, these are how the role of sugar as the monosaccharides, disaccharides in the food application. Now, we will come to the use of starch polysaccharide in the food application. As we have studied about the gel formation, so the major role is about the thickening agent. So, it gives viscosity, and in sauces and soups it can be used. It also acts as a fat replacer, and because it provides mouthful characteristics, and it is used in the low fat products. As it is also used as a whiter binder and retains moisture in the baked product is there. And even to have the characteristics role of the starch, the modified starch are also being produced. So, we will see one by one. So, first as a starch as a thickener, as it absorbs the water and swells up. So, this is the amylose content of the starch with its long water soluble chain, which will increase the viscosity. And the application includes, like if you want to thicken the gravy or sausage or making the pudding. So, this is how it acts as a thickener. Similarly, the fat replacer, It is because it improves the mouthfeel characteristics of its characteristics of water absorbing property, which gives it the mouthfeel characteristics, and it enhances the texture in dairy and salad dressings are there. And it is also used as a fat substitute for the dairy products, like for fat free yogurt or cheese alternatives. Some starches are being used. The starch is a water binder also, because it readily absorbs the moisture and checks its escape from the food product. So, it allows that the moisture is retained in the cake and prevents drying out is there. Body and texture in food products is properly maintained, and integrity is also of the product is maintained. It's very extensively used in the infant foods, because partial hydrolysis of starch yield dextrins, and they are more easily digestibility than starch. So, they are used in the preparation of infant foods are there. Starch are also used as a binder in particularly meats or in breaded items, and such as bulking agents in baking powder or fat. So, this is the role of the water binder as a starch. Then, as I mentioned, we modified the starch to improve their thickening, gelling abilities, and better stability is there. And this it can be by thermal modification, by chemical modification, and enzymatic process. The chemical modification includes such as by treating along by acids, alkalis, or increasing the starch resistance to heat, shear, acid, and make it more stable and suitable for application. By heating also, the thermal modification can take place. Even the enzymatic hydrolysis can also improve the modified the starch. Now, these starches will have the specific functional characteristics modified. So, type of the product we are using it, and what is our intended application, and what properties we need. So, we try to modify the starch so that we have a starch with specific functional characteristics are there. Now we come to the non-starch polysaccharide. So, we have covered about the first was the applications of sugars in the food industry, then starch. Now, we come to the third component, that is the non-starch polysaccharides. So, first one is the cellulose. Water retention and texture improvement is the major function. Then hemicellulose, they are emulsifiers and stabilizers, and the pectins, gelling agent in jams and jellies, and hydrocolloids, thickening and stabilizing agents are there. So, we will see one by one how it is there. So, first is the cellulose. As we mentioned, the important application is water retention is there, and this dry amorphous cellulose becomes soft and flexible on absorbing water. And then it is used as emulsifier, anti-caking agent, dispersing agent, thickener and gelling agent is there. It is used to improve the volume and texture of the food. Very good example is carboxymethyl cellulose, CMC, and which finds many application as a stabilizer because it is soluble in cold water. This is one of the things like in ice cream and other things also. This is being used as a stabilizer CMC, which is commonly used. Then about the hemicellulose, pectins and hydrocolloids. Hemicellulose, as we mentioned, they are more like a emulsifier, stabilizers and binder, and they are used as a bulking agents and fat replacer in the low fat products are there. Pectins is a gelling agents in jam and jellies, and they are very much used in preparation of jam and jellies. Hydrocolloids, they are also having a thickening, gelling and stabilizing characteristics, in particularly for the dairy products like xanthan gum, guar gum. They are used for the different purpose in making the ice cream or wherever we want to stabilize in the yogurt or wherever we want to use it, it can be used. Now, we come to the next, the nutritional importance. We have already covered nutritional aspect in our first part was there, we have covered it, and in some of the basic aspects also we have covered. But we will focus here also what are the salient important nutritional features of carbohydrates. If you recall, the main purpose is energy source. It is a primary fuel for the body because it gives 4 kilocalories per gram of the energy. And this is essential for brain functioning and physical activity. We basically, for our brain activity also, we need the glucose is there. Then the dietary fiber, they are the for our digestive health because they prevent the constipation, and they also help in controlling the blood sugar level, lowering the cholesterol also. Now, what is the recommended intake level is that around 45 to 65% of our calories should come from the carbohydrates. That is, if we have 2000 kilocalories is there, so if you take the 45%, it is around 900 to 1300 calories. So this translates to between 225 to 325 grams of carbohydrate a day. Now, we should select the good carbohydrates, right? That is a balanced diet with the fruit, vegetables and grains should be taken. The other advantage of the taking carbohydrate, it gives you the fullness, that is satisfaction, satiety, weight management, energy balance is a good source of the using the carbohydrates. It also prevents protein breakdown, that is it save our proteins. If you have adequate carbohydrates, so it acts as a shield. It will prevent the body from using protein as an energy source there. It also regulates the blood sugar glucose level. The complex carbohydrates, slow and steady release of carbohydrates in bloodstream, and they prevent the chronic diseases also like heart diseases, and in diabetes also they play a role. Then the particularly dietary fibers, the interest is increasing and they play a very important role because there is an indigestible carbohydrate in plant food, if you recall. Even the resistant starch, which is not degraded in our stomach and absorbed in the small intestine, they also fall under the dietary fiber is there. The benefits include that the promotes digestion, prevents constipation, controls blood sugar level, and the heart health is also improved with this is there. It lowers the cholesterol level because the soluble fiber binds to the cholesterol, and they also regulate the blood sugar because they allows the slow glucose absorption in the bloodstream is there. Then because it gives the fullness, it helps in the weight management is there, and they also serve as a substrate for the intestinal microflora, and they can synthesize some important vitamins also. Now, the dietary fiber, so what we say is there are a lot of comprehensive benefits. First is the improved digestion because it aids in bowel regularity and prevents constipation. The blood sugar control, particularly soluble fiber present in as a legumes like peas, they slow the absorption of sugar and improve the blood sugar level. Heart health also, they reduce the cholesterol level by binding to bile acids, which are then excreted, leading to lower LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol what we call. Weight management, high fiber foods tend to be more filling, helping in control the appetite and reduce the overall calorie intake is there. Then the next is hemicellulose, like the example like xyloglucans, xylens, they are the good source of dietary fiber. So, the advantages what we shared with dietary fiber, they also come with these consumption of these hemicellulose also. Now, they stimulate the immune system, that is when the fermentation take place, they produce the short chain fatty acids like butyrate, they are produced from the fermentation, and they have a support the immunity system is there. This is good for promoting weight loss also, relieving the particularly constipation also, it helps, and controlling the carcinogenics in the intestinal tract. Similarly, it is helpful in reducing postprandial serum glucose level, that is gradual release of glucose in bloodstream serum take place. As we mentioned in under the dietary fiber, similarly they reduce the insulin response and serum cholesterol level by lowering the bad cholesterol by binding the bile salts in the gut. Now, hydrocolloids also, they are more used as a thickening and gelling agent, but they also have a positive effect on health. First is the laxative, then they have a caloric control, that is you try to consume less of your the products. They can replace fat and sugar in the food and contribute to the lower calorie products is there. Easy fulling, that is you feel more fulfilled with taking these type of products. Like if you take guar gum, xanthan gum, they can increase the satiety by slowing the gastric emptying time, which helps in the weight management is there. Then reduction of the blood glucose level, insulin response and cholesterol lowering are also associated with the consumption of hydrocolloids. Now, one of the disadvantages is the lactose intolerance, that when it takes place when there is a deficiency of lactase enzyme. So, some people when they take the milk, they get the abdominal pain, discomfort or bloating or diarrhea, gas formation of lactose is there. So, these are the symptoms of the lactose intolerance, and the diagnosis can be done by the lactose intolerance test is there, hydrogen beep test or stool acidity is there. So, management is that you shift from the taking the lactose, that is if you take the milk based fermented products are there, or you take the source of lactase enzymes are there, could be there. Then the how to take the limit our sugar intake, particularly if you see the recommended level of sugar is up to 20 to 25 grams per day, about 5 spoons are there. Now, there should be what strategies we can take to reduce the sugar consumption. We should, whatever we take the processed food particularly, we should check the label very clearly whether there is some hidden sugar or not there. As in, if you want some sweet to eat, choose the natural sweeteners, like fruit should be taken. Reduce the sugary beverages should be avoided, and then they try to cook at home, and you can modulate the quantity of sugar you're adding. Like if you want to take the fruit juice, opt for the whole fruit. This will give us the natural fiber and also manage the blood sugar level effectively is there. So, to conclude, we have covered today the functional properties related to food, like gelatinization of starch, that we get the jelly structure, retrogradation, what is the bad effect of like in staling in the bread takes place, the role particularly sugar, like sweetness, texture, preservation, fermentation, appearance, loading of the freezing point, antioxidants is there. Then starch, it is the acts as a thickener, fat replacer, water binder is there. And nutritional also we covered, it as an energy source, and dietary fiber, they good for the gut health and the immune system. So, with this to conclude, I say that the carbohydrates are very important for our body. They fuel our body. So, that like life is short, fuel your body with the right carbohydrates. Now, it is your choice that which food you choose for the carbohydrates. So, take the dietary fiber and the balanced amount of the monosaccharides, disaccharides with the dietary fiber. So, with this, thank you very much. Thank you.